While Australian authorities remain completely tight-lipped about what the future of cruising might look like in this country, in the US, the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention have released the next 2 phases of their Conditional Sailing Order, and we'll take a look at what that means right now. I'm Adrian, the Cruise and Travel Guy. As always, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button. Earlier this month, the CDC released their updated Conditional Sailing Order, or CSO, and in their words, with the issuance of these next 2 phases, cruise ship operators now have all the necessary requirements and recommendations they need to start simulated voyages before resuming restricted passenger voyages. So what does this mean for cruising from the US? Essentially, there are 2 phases for cruise lines seeking to restart cruise operations from the US, and each has associated with it a comprehensive manual and guidelines. The first relates to simulated trial voyages, and the second to restricted passenger voyages. Restricted passenger voyages, for all intents and purposes, are cruises conducted with paying passengers and subject to CDC health guidelines. Simulated trial voyages, on the other hand, allow cruise lines to operate with volunteer passengers, testing their health and safety protocols and their ability to mitigate the risks associated with COVID-19. And in breaking news, Royal Caribbean have just received approval from the CDC to commence simulated voyages beginning in June. On board simulated voyages, all volunteers must be told they are partaking in a simulation of unproven health and safety protocols and that there are inherent risks associated with that. All volunteers must be at least 18, must be fully vaccinated with proof, or if not vaccinated, they must supply a self-certified or healthcare provided statement that indicates the volunteer has no medical conditions that would place them at further risk. Volunteers cannot be paid or given a future reward for their participation in the trial cruise, but for the purpose of the trial cruise, the accommodation, food, entertainment on board is not considered a form of payment. All volunteers have to be evaluated for signs and symptoms of COVID-19 prior to embarkation and disembarkation. Plus, they must agree in writing to provide a specimen between 3 and 5 days after disembarkation, with at least 75% of volunteers providing their specimen to a specific lab for testing. On board, social distancing and mask wearing are of course required, as well as a number of tests that the cruise lines will have to undertake, covering all facets of the cruise process. The minimum recommendation for a simulated voyage is 2 nights and 3 days. The CDC has outlined a list of comprehensive simulations that must be tested by the cruise line before they are allowed to progress to the next stage of restricted passenger voyages. On board restricted passenger voyages from the US, cruise lines and passengers will be subjected to a very comprehensive set of health measures that will change and affect the onboard passenger experience. The cruise lines will have their own areas of focus behind the scenes with regards to onboard medical and testing facilities, the operation of heating, cooling, ventilation and filtration systems, infection prevention and control plans, cleaning and disinfection, shore excursions and transportation services, as well as the provision of contactless check-in and check-out procedures. From a passenger perspective, life on board will be very similar to what you've experienced recently on land with regards to mask wearing, social distancing, and enhanced cleaning and sanitation processes. If you feel like it, you can read the CSO in depth. I've put a link to it in the description below. Cruise lines can opt to skip the trial voyage process by ensuring that 98% of their crew members are vaccinated and 95% of their passengers are vaccinated. In a slight twist, however, the state of Florida has recently passed legislation that would prevent cruise lines from asking if their guests have been vaccinated and seeking proof of that vaccination. Would you be willing to head off on a trial voyage? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. And if you'd like to find out more information about cruising or to book one, you can head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguy.com.au, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at thecruiseandtravelguy. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. In the US, the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention have released the next 2 steps for their restricted passenger voyages. For all intents and purposes, are cruises. Simulated trial volunteers cannot be paid or provided